All right. Hello, my name is Aaron Ott, and I am a senior studying computer science at North Carolina State University. I contributed to this research during the summer of 2019 as part of a research experience for undergraduates at the University of Central Florida's Center for Research in Computer Vision. Our paper is on a deep photo cropper and enhancer, authored by myself from NC State and Amir Mazaheri, Dr. Niels D. Lobo, and Dr. Mubarak Shah from UCF. In our paper, we propose a new type of image enhancement problem. We want to take a photo of an image and then extract the original image. For example, we may take a photo of a billboard and we just want the advertisement being displayed. This would also be applicable for imaging license plates, ID badges, and the contents of phone or laptop screens. Our proposed network is broken into two segments. The deep photo cropper accepts our input photo and outputs a transformed image that is cropped to fit the embedded image. The deep image enhancer accepts our transformed image and outputs a color-corrected image. The segments are trained together end to end. First, we'll take a look at the cropping segment of the network. For our networks, we use red to represent 2D convolution layers, green to represent batch normalizations, yellow to represent dense layers, and blue to represent rectified linear unit activations, also known as ReLU activations. Our deep image cropper begins by analyzing the input photo with a pre-trained VGG19 model to obtain 512 7x7 feature maps. We then apply a 2D convolution with 512 2x2 kernels, followed by a batch normalization and a ReLU activation. Then, we apply a 2D convolution with 128 1x1 kernels, followed by an additional batch normalization and ReLU activation. We then have a 1,000 node dense layer, followed by batch normalization and ReLU activation, followed by an 80 node dense layer, and just a ReLU activation, no batch normalization. Finally, we have a 6-node dense layer. These 6 output values correspond to an affine transformation to transform the image into the proper shape. We feed our affine transformation into the spatial transformer network along with our original photo, and it outputs a cropped image. All layers of the cropper are trainable, though the VGG19 network is frozen. To calculate the loss for the deep photo cropper, we use a spatial perceptual loss. We obtain the VGG19 appearance features of the network output and the ground truth, denoted by uppercase gamma, then calculate the cosine proximity of them. Now, we'll look at the deep image enhancement segment of our model. There are multiple kinds of image enhancement networks we could use in our model, such as inpainting or denoising, but we found that a super resolution network best suits our model. Super resolution networks are designed to pull detail out of low resolution images, which is perfect for correcting images that are only a small portion of our original photo. For describing the enhancer network architecture, we use the same symbols as before, along with purple to represent the addition of values and orange to represent depth to space expansions. Depth to space expansions upscale the image to increase the size of each dimension. For our deep image enhancer network, we used a pre-trained enhanced deep super resolution network, or EDSR. The network is a modified form of ResNet, which skips batch normalization and ReLU activation. Each residual block applies a 2D convolution with 64 3x3 kernels, a ReLU activation, an additional 2D convolution with 64 3x3 kernels, and then adds the output to the input of the residual block using a skip connection. This is repeated 16 times, then the output is added to the original input of the first residual block. After that, there are 2 sets of 2D convolutions with 256 3x3 kernels, followed by depth to space expansions. The final output is an image that is twice the size of the cropped image in each dimension. To calculate the loss of the deep photo enhancer, we obtain the VGG19 appearance features for the output image and the ground truth, denoted with uppercase gamma, and then calculate the Euclidean distance between them. For our deep photo enhancer, we use an existing network with pre-trained weights. However, we found that our perceptual Euclidean loss outperformed the L1 loss that the network had been trained with. When training, the cropper and enhancer networks were trained simultaneously in an end-to-end fashion. Now, we created several data sets to test our models with. We name our data sets with the prefix DCE, which stands for Deep, Cropper, and Enhancer. First, we began by creating small, real data sets. Our first data set, which we refer to as DCE1, is a very simple set of photos of images from the Caltech UCSD birds dataset. They were placed over a black background, imaged by a smartphone from various angles, and was designed to be a relatively easy dataset. This dataset consisted of 100 photos, 90 of which were used for training, and 10 of which were used for testing. We then created a more challenging dataset, which we refer to as DCE2. It contains images from the Caltech UCSD birds dataset over more complicated backgrounds and from more extreme angles. This dataset is used only for testing our models and only consists of about 20 photos. Though our network was performing well, we were worried that it was overfitting due to the limited size of the dataset and the lack of background variety. To combat this, we wrote a program to generate images over a random background. We apply a random projective transformation to the image to mimic taking a photo at a slight angle. These random projective transformations will produce different rotations, different image sizes, and different angles. Because our domain of backgrounds and images is random and diverse, our network should be able to perform better in a wider variety of contexts, and we can now generate as large of a dataset as we need. We refer to this dataset as DCES, S standing for synthetic. And now for the results of our experiments. Our models were trained using a 12G Pascal Titan X GPU. When testing our models, we used 3 different metrics: peak signal-to-noise ratio and structural similarity, which we want to maximize, and mean square error, which we want to minimize. First, we trained and tested our models on DCE1. A single cropper performs well by itself, but an enhancer generates much better metrics. Next, we trained models on DCE1 and tested them on DCE2. Our lone cropper is still outperformed by a cropper and enhancer, but there's also a significant performance increase by using 2 croppers stacked in series. Next, we tried training our models on the synthetic dataset DCES and testing them on DCE2. We find that a single cropper trained solely on the synthetic dataset can perform well, but by training on a combination of synthetic and real data, we're able to get better performance, especially with double croppers, stacked in series. Now for some visual results. Here you can see the output from just the cropper network and the combined cropper and enhancer when trained and tested on DCE1. On the far left, we have our original input photo, and on the far right, we have the original image of which the photo was taken. In the second column, we have the output of our deep cropper, which you can see has identified the outline of the image and has cropped the photo to fit. You can see in these examples that there is hardly any black background still visible, and the cropped image takes almost the exact shape as the ground truth image. In the third column, we have the output of our deep enhancer, which has adjusted some of the discoloration from the input photo. When the photo is taken, because it was a screen, the image comes out brighter. And in the cropper output, that image is still brighter than the ground truth. But the enhancer is able to darken those colors and correct them to be more realistic. It's important to note that this experiment was performed using the same image class, birds, as the network was trained on. Now we see the result of a single cropper network on unseen classes compared with the results from commercial software, Microsoft Office Lens. These environments and image classes were unseen by our models before testing. As you can see, when facing complicated backgrounds and angles, our cropper network is able to consistently identify the target image and extract it better than the commercial software. Especially in the second case, where you can see that the commercial software was unable to identify the whole image. In this first case, where the commercial application was hardly able to crop the image at all, while our method was able to crop relatively close to the real image. Even more impressively, this experiment shows that our trained model can be generalized to work effectively in different environments and with different object categories from that which it was trained. Thank you for watching, and please reach out to myself or Amir Mazaheri if you have any questions.